One of the jurors in the Kim Potter case gave an interview to one of the local affiliates out there in Minneapolis, and what they're talking about here was exactly what a lot of people were theorizing. They bought in hook, line, and sinker on Matthew Frank and Aaron Eldridge and the prosecution's last day theory that recklessness and negligence were merely interchangeable, and no legal definition was really required. They just had to think that, you know what, somebody's dead, therefore somebody needs to go to jail. And they purposefully get a lot of this misconstrued, and yeah, that was exactly what I thought was happening, what a lot of other smart, learned people on the subject were thinking was the case as well when the verdict came down, because, yeah, did she run afoul of the law, okay? Was she legally reckless? Did she knowingly disregard that she had a firearm in her hand and what she was doing was going to result in the murder of Daunte Wright? Absolutely not. That was nothing that the prosecution ever brought up, okay? They never contested it, okay? But what they did was they blurred the lines of there being the defense that, well, the defendant could use that this was a clear and honest mistake. Unfortunate, it ended in somebody losing their life, but this was a mistake. You don't convict people for actual mistakes. But that's not what the jury thought, okay? And that's one of the specific points that gets brought up in this interview here. But let's take a look at this. It's not terribly extensive, and I probably won't read through every single line, but it's worth going over. The jury in the Kim Potter trial deliberated for about 27 hours over the course of 4 days, and it apparently would have been about a day earlier, but there were two holdouts, okay? Two holdouts, so for two different reasons, but apparently they already had the top charge already done and dusted, okay? They were just bickering on the second charge, which just once again goes to show you, because when I broke this all down, I think it was on the closing arguments day, yeah, the bar to convict Kim Potter on either charge, it was identical. You needed to hit the same threshold for either the first or the second degree murder, so it just goes to show you that the jury are retarded, okay? One juror shared the details of the deliberation with Carol Evan and asked to remain anonymous, but whatever. Immediately following closing arguments, the juror believed Potter was guilty on both counts and said his opinion, one of the 6 men who were on the jury was the interviewee in this situation. So what happened during deliberations, asked the interviewer. We did an initial vote. We did a temperature check throughout. That makes sense. Initially, for both counts, we were predominantly guilty. Oh, great. And that's kind of, okay, because I also watched all of the jury selection, okay, and that laborious task in and of itself, and it just kind of seemed like a lot of people were under the assumption that, okay, somebody was dead, therefore somebody needs to be held accountable. And that's not what a criminal trial is supposed to accomplish. That's the auspices of the civil case, okay? The one that will eventually come, okay? The one that Brooklyn Center will be paying out millions of dollars to the Ben Crump fronted legal team of the Wright family, okay? The purpose of a criminal trial asks a simple question. Did the person who is charged with these crimes commit those crimes beyond a reasonable doubt? Nothing that was ever proved. That's not what the jury thought, okay? They thought something bad happened, somebody needs to be held accountable. Fuck off. For count 1, it was 7 for guilty, and the remainders were either not guilty or didn't know. Which is great, considering the trial lasted, what, double digits in days? I don't know. I don't really know. I wasn't really paying attention. I kind of fell asleep. Everybody was talking a little bit too slow on the prosecution and the judge herself, so I don't really know. Then, for count 2, 8 said guilty. Again, you had one brainlet who was out there. It's like, oh, not guilty of first degree, but you know what? She's got to be charged with something. Fucking morons. 2 said not guilty, and the 2 didn't know, so it seems like the same idiotic split. The day that we asked the judge what would happen if we can't reach a decision, okay, that was the first full day of deliberations. We were evenly split on manslaughter 1 at 4 guilty, 4 for not guilty, and 4 I have no idea. Holy fuck. And at that point, we were just arguing semantics and kind of in circles. Yeah, obviously, you seem to dissuade a bunch of people away from your side. That's interesting. And this guy right here, you're going to figure it out. This guy was definitely guilty the entire fucking way down. The way that he was leapt to the interview, that should be a bit of a heads up to begin with. And then a lot of his phraseology, okay, a lot of the way that he tries to ascendantly speak about this process like he's the smartest person in the fucking room. I wouldn't be surprised if this wasn't a foreperson either, but this guy's just trying to seem like, oh, there was good points on both sides, and I'm just so fucking big brained that I should just, you know what, go out there and tell you what the jury was thinking. Fucking dolt. But anyways, yeah, back to this. And at that point, we're just arguing semantics, going in circles. This case was interesting because there weren't really facts that were in dispute. Yeah, exactly. It's almost like you had to look at the law and figure out if she transgressed it. She didn't, but you guys thought accountability. Those last couple of days were literally just focusing on the language of the law, which you didn't really kind of do. Before deliberations began, Judge Regina Chu gave the jury instructions that laid out the elements of each crime, which apparently you didn't take very good notes on. They all had to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt to reach a guilty verdict, and the jurors said the 12-person panel spent several hours in large group discussions as well as smaller breakout groups, blah, blah, blah. So which witness swayed you the most? This will be interesting, okay? I know some of the jurors didn't really respond well to Professor Seth Stutton.
Yes, I was a police officer. I was on the beat for a year, like 15 years ago, and then they stuck me behind a desk, and then I went back to school to become an expert in police work.
Fuck off. But I really liked him. Of course you did. Of fucking course you did. He said, okay, Kim Potter literally couldn't do anything. What was his recommendation? What should those officers who pulled over Daunte Wright, who was fleeing from a lawful arrest, what the fuck should they have done? Nothing. They could have got him at a later date. Yeah, no. The taser was irresponsible, the gun was irresponsible, and yeah, they already had his name and number, and he had a whole bunch of warrants out for his arrest, but they could have got him later, obviously. But again, he wasn't legally allowed to be driving that car. But yeah, no, that was Seth Stoughton, okay? And he made $10,000 to give that testimony. I went through all the evidence. Cool, do you want a gold star? I feel like he was the only expert witness who really had an assertion that was relevant, whether use of force was justified or not. No, not Uber police officer who was on the fucking force for 40 years. Not the guy who set up SWAT teams. Not the guy who was in the first ever fucking taser trainers course. Not that guy. Obviously not that guy. You see the bias of this fucking juror creeping in just a little bit? Oh, I just believe everything that the state tells me to believe. Fuck off. He actually looked at the totality of the circumstances and also through the lens of what a reasonable officer would do. Whereas some of the other expert witnesses did not do that. There were 3 expert witnesses, okay? 3 fucking experts. 2 from the defense and 1 from the prosecution. They had the trainer from the department, okay, who was speaking exclusively to every fucking comprehensive policy that Brooklyn Center has and had and has ever had. And what did they say at that time? Well, here are the policies. Okay, yeah, Kim Potter attended the training. Cool. Oh, this is just making me mad. We also really liked Dr. Lawrence Miller. Oh, these people just like official titles for people. He seemed very knowledgeable to us, but where there were some conversations about his testimony because he kept referring to an interview. He didn't keep referring to it, okay? It was only asked once by the prosecution, but okay, cool. Again, you can see this dude was hell-bent against Kim Potter to begin with, but whatever. We wanted to know when Potter had this conversation with Dr. Miller. It wasn't ever admissible. The conversation, doctor-patient confidentiality, and for whatever reason, the judge didn't want to admit that interview. Not suggesting Kim Potter was lying or embellishing her story, but the stories just didn't line up. The things she told him and the things she told us. How would you even know? So what about Kim Potter? Okay, so speaking directly about her testimony when Kim Potter was up on the stand, Dr. Miller was only allowed to use the prosecution to impeach Potter during cross-examination. The jury was able to glean that Potter never told Dr. Miller she saw a look of fear on her partner's face. Oh, okay, cool. So they were just reading into things that weren't ever, admitted into evidence or ever testified to. But we kind of think that maybe, perhaps, potentially, she just kind of maybe made that stuff up. Cool. We're going to throw away for life just on a hunch that we have, which is totally within the purview of the jury. But again, that's the problem with a fucking jury trial. The jurors said they felt Potter hurt her credibility on the witness stand when she contradicted those 2 points. Cool. I don't think any juror felt Kim Potter was a liar. We just think that she contradicted what she said. So what would you call that? A lot? No, you wouldn't. But we did get the feeling she was fighting for her life by testifying, and we understood why she would be. I'm very surprised that the verdict came out. That after the verdict came out, to learn some people did not find her crying to be real. Yeah. I don't think I really seen any kind of credible evidence of that. Okay. But yeah, no, those brainlet thoughts were definitely out there. Just being in the courtroom, it felt very real and tangible to me. She seemed very upset and apologetic. I don't want to speak for all the jurors. Obviously, no, I can't speak for everybody. Good points on both sides. Fuck off. But I think we believed she was a good person and even believed that she was a good cop. No one felt she was intentional in this. Then you should have acquitted. And that a mistake does not absolve you from the fact that she did commit a crime. Actually, it does. It explicitly does. Oh, God. Again, thanks to that rebuttal that was just actually a second close, where Matthew Frank, just against the letter of the law, just reinforced that, oh yeah, if it's a mistake, you can just go ahead, don't listen to any of the objections by the defense. But then again, this juror also found the defense, who was cerebral and very good, found them annoying, or their tactics annoying. Fucking stupid. Being a good person doesn't mean you're above the law. That is true. You just have... Oh, God. It's fucking brainlet. I don't think anyone felt she wanted to kill anybody that day. There was no good feeling. This was just a tragedy all the way around. I agree, but again, that doesn't make a guilty verdict. It is fair to say that a rookie officer who did this, it might have been different. Oh, really? No. That was the question that was asked of the juror. This was a discussion we had, and I don't know if every jury member agrees with that, but yeah, that was definitely a sentiment that was expressed a good amount, actually. It's very interesting, because this guy could also, just run down specifics about, okay, cool, so we took, initially, on the first of 4 fucking days of deliberations, we took the temperature of the room, his words, and then he had a detailed breakdown of what everybody said, and he's like, oh no, I can't speak for everybody, but we had these in-depth conversations with the jury, and yeah, I don't really know how everybody thinks, but whatever. Because of our years of experience, we weren't really looking through the lens of what would be, what a reasonable person would do, but rather would be what a reasonable officer would do. And that's what Seth Stoughton said. A reasonable officer would just, I don't know, leave a flyer, and hopefully the little pamphlet that they'd stick in the windshield wiper didn't fly away as he was fleeing from officers. It was something that some of us struggled with, because you're thinking of ourselves in that situation, like, I could make that mistake, and then it was like, well, you're not a 26-year veteran. Yeah. Who never, ever, ever pulled any of her fucking weaponry in the field, okay? Whatever. A big turning point in the deliberations came when the jurors themselves handled Potter's gun and the taser and felt the differences. Again, did anybody, run at them? Did anybody struggle with them? Okay, did anybody really put themselves in a comparable situation? The gun was about twice as heavy. Yeah, it was 2 pounds instead of 1 pound. Big fucking difference. And the 2 weapons, and several differences in how they are unholstered and fired. The taser kind of feels like a mouse click, whereas the trigger has some trigger draw weight, and that was a key turning point, the juror said. Yeah, imagine that when you actually pull the trigger, then you know something's different. It's almost like when you pull the trigger and you hear a big boom, and then you realize, oh fuck, I just shot somebody. It's almost like you didn't know what the fuck you were doing. How about that? But that just reinforced your already very, very strong opinion. So yeah, jump over that. Is the next question. What did they say when they finally changed their mind? Okay, speaking of the couple of holdouts anyways. The juror said they reached in the final day and a half of deliberations. They had already decided beyond a reasonable doubt that Potter was guilty of the second-degree manslaughter, but 2 jurors, a middle-aged man and a woman, were holding out on the higher count. Yeah, no, it was already done and dusted. She was going to be going away for 10 plus years on the second-degree manslaughter because reasons, but on the higher charge, I don't know. But again, this is another one of those compromised verdicts that's out there. Somebody's dead. Somebody pulled the trigger. Somebody's got to pay for this. So aside from the language of the law tripping them up, they shared concerns of the consequences Potter would face if she was guilty. One of them asked me, hey, could I just have a one-on-one with this other holdout and let me just talk it through and work through both of our reasons together and see if they came to some sort of an understanding. That's why I think this guy was the jury foreperson, okay, or the foreman. Because why would somebody be going to just a random person? It's like, why can't I just, just have a one-on-one conversation with the other holdout and see what our differences are. She was caught on the accountability side of things. That's not the responsibility of a criminal fucking case, but whatever. And he helped clear that up for her. And he was caught up on the language, as you should be, because that's what you guys are deciding. All the facts are on the table, and you guys just couldn't figure out the fucking law. Anyways. Juror said deliberations at times got heated as discussions seemed to go in circles. That's why it took so fucking long. So yeah, inside the room, it just started to hit us all at once. The weight of this. Once we came to a final verdict on the manslaughter 1, we still had to wait hour and a half until it was read. So it was the last hour and a half. I finally allowing myself to think of the consequences of this tragedy. Don't you think you should have been doing that the entire time? Nah, we'll just send her away for life. Wow, this is really significant now, isn't it? Obviously, we had been thinking about what that meant for Daunte Wright's family. Again, what do they have to do with this? Are they the ones on trial? Are they the ones who are going to reap the benefits of this? No. Okay, cool. So again, they were just discussing literally everything except for the letter of the law. But now I started to think about what this meant for Kim Potter's family. Yeah, one family's ruined, so what's the proper consequence of that? You should probably just ruin another. Sounds good. As far as Daunte Wright's family, I just felt a strong sense of loss, and I know that there's been news about accusations that Daunte was not a good person. Oh, really? Did you see some videos out there? I got a pretty good one. But that's just not something that we were aware of as juror members or thought of. No. How about we'll just play back some of those body cam footages of him resisting arrest and you guys knowing that he had an outstanding warrant for a fucking gun charge and an order of protection against a woman? No, he might have been a bad person or not. I don't know if if that qualifies and meets your threshold, but you seem to have fucking a wonky sense of morality, my guy. And it's hard to think about Daunte's son, okay? Yeah, somebody who was already sharing custody with and somebody he probably would have been deadbeat from. Let's be completely fucking honest. He wasn't necessarily going down the most righteous of paths out there. So anyways, yeah, next question. So could you give me the thoughts on how the prosecutors did and how the defense attorneys did? Yeah, this guy's a simp for the state. Speaking for myself here. Oh my god, stop qualifying every fucking statement, you asshole. But I think most of the jurors would agree with me on this. I don't think the defense did themselves very many favors. Why? A lot of their antics seemed like purposeful distractions. Like what? The prosecution seemed more organized and laborious and boring and fucking ponderous in the amount of cumulative evidence that they brought. Okay, how many days, how many fucking hours was spent on the car crash afterwards that had nothing to do with the shooting, but far more organized, right? I like PowerPoints, and I like when harpy women just screech them at me and use misplaced emotions. Yeah, it's really cool. The defense seemed like they were just throwing everything at us that they could. Everything from it was just an honest mistake which it was, and which was never in doubt, to Daunte caused his own death. Yeah, so this dude just remembers closing arguments, which was probably the weakest point of the defense, but it was still, like, out of 10, it was probably still a 7. I feel like Kim Potter's testimony and the other officers were the strongest things the defense had, but you also liked one of the oh my god, this guy, he's all over the place. Yeah, we like Dr. Lawrence Miller, but at the same time, the officers who most, if not, well, not all of them, most of the officers that were up there were witnesses from the defense that did the defense no favors. This guy's not terribly consistent on things. What did you make of the defense that Daunte Wright caused his own death? Yeah, well, you know what, if this was an accident, if this was something that was preventable, which normally an accident, by your definition, should be, that should come up, right? That did come into the discussion and deliberations, but it wasn't a huge focus because we were just already pro-prosecution anyways, because we were operating under the assumption that a mistake is not a defense in this case. It totally fucking is, and I'm just glad you guys can just make up different interpretations of the law at your own whim. Yeah, Daunte's actions, if they weren't taken, we would have never been there. Exactly. Whatever. And that just kind of played into the tragedy of it all, and especially when he learned that Kim Potter wouldn't have even pulled over Daunte in the first place. Yeah. So, okay, are you just gonna convict Officer Lucky by proxy then? It's like you just seem to be handing out fucking prosecutions all willy-nilly anyways. So did Kim Potter. Oh, I'm sorry. Daunte's actions clearly had consequences. Yeah, but he's not on trial. And so did Kim Potter. And she ended up facing the entire brunt of this. That's cool. But yeah, no, feel bad for the Wright family. I know it wasn't your job, this is the next question, to think about this and didn't play into your decision, but now that the case is over, what do you think should happen to Kim Potter? And this makes me want to literally bite my index finger off. It's hard to say. I hope for a lighter sentence, but when you factor in the vehicle that got hit and also the injury Daunte's passengers sustained, I am of the belief that Kim Potter's responsible for the harm as well as what should play into her sentence. It just hurts me to say that because I don't think it was a mistake. Oh, I do think it was a mistake. I also think it does not absolve you from the responsibility of your actions. I plan on going to the sentencing for her. Your job is done. You can't do her any more harm. Oh, why are you going to the sentencing, you fucking weirdo? This guy just wants his props. I was on the jury. I convicted that murderous, racist woman. And I know it's going to be really hard to sit there. I'm hoping she doesn't get the book thrown at her. No, you just convicted her on 2 identical charges and made up your own interpretation of the law. So you just want to go over there and lord over her one last time. Okay, you want to sit in the audience, you want to sit in the courtroom, and then just look right at her because, yeah, she didn't see your entire face the whole time, okay? You had a mask on, but she's not going to forget those eyes. She's going to see you in the courtroom. It's like, I don't know that guy, okay? That's not my husband. That's not my kids. That guy looks oddly familiar. Somebody I was staring at for fucking 2 weeks at a time. Why is he here? Because he wants his kudos. But yeah, anyways, I do think she should get an adequate sentence, especially when you factor in those other factors. Yeah, okay, cool. So again, addressing the actual law, the actual charges. Nah, somebody's dead. She needs to be held accountable for that. That's not the law. Those aren't the charges, but that's what you get with a fucking jury crapshoot every once in a while. But I don't know. Well, we'll probably talk about this again when sentencing happens. Okay, on the low end, she could get probation. Ain't gonna fucking happen, especially with the Blakely factors that were there, with the judge now deciding based on the other aggravations that the prosecution is alleging added to the severity of this crime. But whatever, we'll see what that happens. That's supposed to be happening in, I think, I just heard an interview with Earl Grey here earlier today, the lead defense attorney. He said in on or around March, something like that. I thought it was like late February, but I can't be entirely certain. He would know a little bit better than me, but yeah, that's probably when we'll dive back into this, and yeah, just for completionist sake. But yeah, unfortunately, it was everybody's worst nightmare, and can't really necessarily say I'm fucking terribly surprised when it comes to this, but that's what you get with juries nowadays. That's what you get with Hennepin County. That's what you get with Twin Cities juries, especially with police officers. No more mistakes. That's not a defense, even though it literally is by the letter of the law. But with that said, I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.